am Erika of Grapefruit, Gardenia Designs and the Knit Kind podcast. I am here what feels like the morning after Vermont Sheep and Wool, but it's 2 mornings after because I had the pleasure of staying overnight in Vermont on Sunday night after the festival ended and not rushing home this year. And I now think it's Monday instead of Tuesday, but here we are. So I thought I would catch up with you before I dive back into full reality and just give you a little bit about what went on at the festival, although as I will share, most of what went on at the festival for me was in my booth because it was so wonderfully busy on Saturday that I didn't go around the festival at all. And Sunday morning was a much calmer vibe, but we were still in our booths with a very steady crowd a lot of people who enjoyed being there and spending time and not being in the same level of crowd that we had on Saturday. So for those of you who are new, maybe you're just discovering me and the Knit Kind community, and maybe that's because you saw us at Vermont Sheep and Wool this year, or maybe it's just because we ended up in your feed after another podcast. Welcome. This is a podcast about the fiber arts under the premise of kindness, where we are continuing to build a really wonderful community who's supportive of each other, who is inclusive and respectful of different viewpoints, understanding that our best path forward, if we have a path forward in America, for those of you who are watching from the States, it's together, and that's not always easy, and it's especially hard lately. So that's who we are, and I hope that you'll continue to join us. And if you do like the podcast, please consider a like, subscribe, a share, a comment. It helps us reach more people and bring more of us together. And I couldn't be more, I think Peg on the Junction Fiber Millcast this morning used the word humbled, but it's really true. You just put this stuff out to the world and people come, and those of you who do watch and who came this weekend and said, your names or that you watch or how helpful it's been. It means the world to me too, and I really mean that. So this is my second time starting. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but my voice might not be as soothing as you so nicely tell me that it often is, because we were talking to everyone all day, especially on Saturday, and it was so dry. I had spent such a dry spell that there was also a lot of dirt and dust in the air. So between all of that, I'm going with my best, I think, 1940s, like movie star voice, I guess. But I hope that will not be too distracting and that I'll still be able to share some great things with you about the festival. So we're never going to mention everybody, and I don't want to forget anybody who came, but I do just want to say a few special thanks to people who stopped by the booth, because really every single person who came by, it was either surprising or special or great to see you again or great to meet you for the first time. And so I have to do a few shout outs, especially because I know some of you watch the podcast regularly. So Ray from Dighton came up, total surprise. Ray and I had never met in person, I don't think, and I grew up in Dighton, and she's been watching the podcast and knitting some of the designs and supporting Knit for Food every year, and she came up with her husband, who said Dighton in the house. You don't get that a lot. If you grew up in Dighton or you have any idea where Dighton is, I think when I left for college, I don't think there was a stoplight anywhere. Couple double yellow lines on some roads, but pretty small. So thanks, Ray, for coming all the way to Vermont and coming over and saying hi. Carol, you came with your September garden cowl, and we took those beautiful pictures, and it was so nice to see that and to get to see you again. And Mindy, of course, Mindy and her husband came layered up in all the designs. So things that she had knit as part of different knit-alongs or test knits, and her husband even had the bracelet on that we did at the workshop at the Junction Fiber Mill retreat this summer. So you guys looked awesome. Dolores, come on, nothing like a big hug in person, right? To catch up, and your sweater looked awesome. And Marita, who came, who last year had, actually we're going to talk about this in a minute, but had seen the Sharing Day shawl, and Marita got the yarn for it at last year's festival and had knitted it and sent me pictures over the winter, and it was so lovely to see her again. new friends that we just made last year coming back. It's really special. We had folks from the Unruly Stitch. I didn't know you were going to come, Helen and Nora. You guys surprised us, and it was so nice to look up and see a friendly face. Everybody's friendly, but to see a familiar and friendly face that you weren't expecting is always a delight. And Nora had on her gorgeous shawl, which was also featured on the Millcast for Junction Fiber Mill. So I didn't get a picture of it, but hop over there. You'll learn a little bit something else about Nora as well. And Karen, who came, who had joined us at Knit for Food at the Unruly Stitch. You guys you came in droves. Kim from the Knitting Posse, who I met last year at Rhinebeck, through Irina, who has Fiber Chats, came and said hello and, remembered interactions we had. And just, it's awesome. The community we are building is awesome. And also, if you're going to be, Kim, if you're going to be at the Upland Fiber booth, Rhinebeck weekend, I think, what is it, at a Woolen Affair or Indie Untangled? I can't remember which one, but that is definitely on my list to go to Upland Fiber as well. We had new friends like Chamomile, who came by with her dad, and they had just moved to Vermont from another part of the country, and I think she's going to get to wear a lot of those knits a lot more this winter. But she had on a gorgeous Shetland lace wrap, and I don't think there was really anybody who came by my booth that I had the chance to say, can I take a picture of what you're wearing? Only because we were experiencing it in the moment, which is awesome when you can do that and not have your phone out and video out, whether it's because of bandwidth or just not, wanting to be present. But I did stop and say, could I take a picture and share it, because it was so beautiful. So welcome to New England and Vermont, and you're surrounded by a great supportive knitting and fiber arts community here, and I hope you love it. We even met people in the general store. The festival has grown so much, and the night before there was someone in the general store with a hat on that said knit, and we said, we know why you're here. And it turned out to be two women one was from North Carolina and one I believe was from Oregon. And so people are coming from all over to go to Vermont Sheep and Wool, and it's amazing to see. And we met aspiring designers, we met non-knitters, we met people who watch the different podcasts and just wanted to come to say hello to folks, and every single thing was great. So if I didn't mention you, I still so appreciated you coming, but I had to just do a few special highlights because our brains are swirling, our hearts are full, and it was wonderful to see you all. And then my fellow designers who were in Designer Alley, Jill, Katrina, Ona, Jules, Alice, and even Tamara, who was supposed to be there with Starcross Knits but wasn't able to vend, came as a guest to visit us. And I had hoped to do these like little mini interview questions, and there was just no way. Maybe next year we could aspire to that, but I just couldn't do it. But guess what? We were surprised by Amanda from Junction Fiber Mill, who did come around the second day and caught us all, and I watched it this morning, and I'm really glad to see that we did not look like we were totally out of steam on day 2. And it's such a nice treat to get to hop over there and see people, and you can get these little mini interviews. So if you haven't watched the Junction Fiber Mill Millcast this morning, there's a great recap of Vermont Sheep and Wool there also. And thanks to Amanda and to that crew for pulling that off for us. It was wonderful. So let me just share this with you. This is my Shearing Day shawl, and you've seen it before, and you might think, why are we showing it now? Well, in the way that the universe gives you nudges, this summer I got the best news out of the blue, unexpected. It wasn't something you apply for or anything like that. And the Green Mountain Knitting Guild reached out to me to say that Shearing Day Shawl had been selected as the 2026 Green Mountain Shawl of the year, that they will be knitting between Vermont Sheep and Wool this year and Vermont Sheep and Wool next year as a knit along, and then taking pictures at the festival next year. This year they did it on both days, so I'm not sure if that will be the plan again next year or not. But if you want to get more information about the knit along or the Green Mountain Knitting Guild, hop over to their website, where you can probably, I'll have to double check, you can probably sign up for a newsletter there. There's also pictures on the Vermont Sheep and Wool website of the meetup and how it worked over the past year to have the knit along, because did I already say on this version This, Ona's design, was the shawl for this year, and everybody wore it and took the picture, and then they announced that sharing day would be the shawl for next year. So it was also lovely to get to meet Mary and Judy in person. We had been emailing since August about different plans of what we're gonna do for the knit along and for some highlights of getting everyone together on Zoom later this fall. And I wanted to also, again, thank Melissa Littlefield of Knitting the Stash, who was the original collaborator behind this shawl when she had her curated farm fresh yarns from Knitting the Stash and was looking for designers and how to call for designers, and that's how we originally created this. So I got to share the news with Melissa as well as with Sunny on Saturday night, I think. When I was back in my Airbnb, I sent them a little quick message saying I finally can share this news with you as well. And then last night when I got home, I watched Melissa's podcast and she announced it there. So if anybody does still have the kits from her and you feel like jumping in, jump in. And if you don't have a kit and you want to jump in, I have a lot of recommendations for you, but I also hope that you'll go out on your own through vendors at the different festivals, through your stash, or through whatever yarn is representative to you of what you want to create and kind of the story you want to have behind it. So I'm going to show a few pictures. I mentioned Marita, who came, and I'll insert her picture because she did it last year, and it was, again, one of those universe nudges of like the best thing to really keep you going as a designer when you get pictures and gratitude and just a really nice note from somebody who's knit one of your designs. So hopefully at this point, maybe over here or over here, I'm sticking a picture of Marita with her shawl that she sent me over the winter. Maybe I'll put in a picture of Melissa and her shawl from when she test knit it. And then I had just the smallest chance to poke around the festival on Sunday morning and take a few pictures of some suggestions for you. And like I said, if you went to Vermont Sheep and Wool and you picked something up, maybe you got one of those gorgeous skeins of Hand and Heart farm DK that I've talked about because I've used them in some of my designs and they're gorgeous. Those would be very nice to use. And, you know, Kingdom Fleece and Fiber Works, who I've designed with most recently, the Lifeline shawl, those would be lovely to use. So would any vendor who was there. And even if they don't have DK weight yarn, you can knit the shawl. It's a shawl, right? You can knit it in a different weight yarn. You just have to realize that you've got to get a gauge that you like for your fabric. It will affect your end dimensions and it will affect the yardage used, but you don't even have to use a DK. So if you do use DK as it's written, you want 3 skeins, 3 different colors, 250 yards each. If you are using skeins with less yardage, like I'm going to talk about it in a minute, you might need 2 skeins or you might need 3 skeins. So just pay attention to the yardage, but 3 different colors, 250 yards each. Where the darkest color is here, you actually might want to get a little bit more yardage, but if you're not using something that's very, very comparable, but the pattern tells you if you're running a little short what to do also, so you don't have to panic. So if you're going to New York Sheep and Wool, if you're going to New England Fiber Festival, there will be so many vendors there. And if you specifically want Vermont wool, look at your list of vendors and see who's from Vermont, because there are many small farms who don't necessarily go to Vermont Sheep and Wool if you just were there, or if you feel like you missed it, it doesn't mean you missed every Vermont small fiber farm option either, because they will be at a lot of these other festivals. And for you, those of you who are spinners, you have a whole year. So if you would like to spin to knit, this is why I saved this story shared with me this summer by a woman named Sunny, who I met through Melissa and her Zoom group that she has. And Sunny, during Tour de Fleece this year, spun all of the yarn that she then used to already knit and finish her shearing day shawl. And she sent me some pictures over the summer that she said I could use. And I said, I'm going to save those for the fall. I think it would be a good fall project. And this is why I was saving them. So many options. I hope maybe some of you will join us. It can be a casual knit. You can pick it up and put it down in between other things, or you can knit it now, or you can wait and knit it in the spring or even the early fall, depending on how quickly you knit, and still join us. And maybe if you haven't come to Vermont Sheep and Wool, maybe this is a good opportunity, a good reason to kind of come next year and put it on your list a year ahead. We have the dates already. So the dates of Vermont Sheep and Wool next year are October 3rd and 4th, 2026. So maybe a sharing day shawl and a little planning ahead for Vermont 2026. Can I tempt you? And so what I thought I would do is encourage you to seek out all those small farm yarns, but also give you two options where either if you physically aren't able to go to these festivals, and you rely on being able to order yarn online, I have two Vermont suggestions for you also. The first is Green Mountain Spinnery. They have four different DKs available online to order, and they're all a little bit different. So depending on what climate you're in, or what fibers you like working with, or what fibers you like next to your skin, you've got options from Vermont Wool. That's it's not all Vermont Wool, but it's a Vermont cooperative. The mill is in Vermont, and then everything is domestically sourced, including their organic cotton, which comes from Texas. So the four they have are Alpaca Elegance, which is an alpaca wool blend. They have Cotton Comfort DK, which is a cotton wool blend that I have used that I love. That would be a beautiful one for the shawl. They have Music, which is 100% wool, and then they have Sylvan, which is a wool tencel blend. So tons of options and gorgeous color palettes. Like, they would just all work so well. And they have some that are natural, and they have some that are dyed. So that would be one recommendation that I would give you. And the other is Junction Fiber Mill, which, you know, again, they always have different DKs available. It is more of a heavy DK, and for the yardage, you're gonna need a little bit more. So check the yardage, check where you would wanna place your colors, and for whichever one you'd want where the dark skein is, you will definitely need 2 skeins. And for the others, frankly, I would just probably get 2 skeins of each and then use your scraps for another leftover project, because their skeins have more like 200 to 210 or so yards per skein. But maybe you've squirreled some of that away. Maybe you have some Savage Heart Farm like I do. It would be so good in that limited edition that's come out. And maybe you thought you were kicking yourself because you didn't have a sweater quantity, but now you have something you could do with it. Just saying. If I had that in my stash. I mean, I do actually have it in my stash, but I think if I make another one and do a knit along over the next year, which I'm thinking I will do probably another sample of this, I think I have my gorgeous natural color one. So I think I will maybe do some with some color as everybody else is knit along too. And I think I can do some good stash diving and even come up with some beautiful Vermont yarn from my stash to do it in. So stay tuned on that one. Let's see. All right. I guess you probably want to see my purchases, but there aren't very many. So really my yarn purchase was for my friend Diane, who is test knitting the Gingerbread Whimsy sweater for me. And she wanted to knit the contrast color in the Smuggler's Notch, which was Junction Fiber Mill's limited edition for the festival. So I snuck right over there on Saturday morning. It was the top priority of things that I had to do Saturday morning, and I got Diane 2 skeins of that for hers. So I'll insert a picture, but as we both said, it's even way prettier in person. So I got her the Smuggler's Notch, and then I really only got myself, I was not yarn shopping. I was not yarn shopping, but I knew I wouldn't really have time or bandwidth, and I'm going to Rhinebeck to a Woolen Affair, Indian Tangled, I think. The last time slot probably will slip over there, and then both days of Rhinebeck. So I'm gonna have plenty of time to yarn shop with a more shopper focus as opposed to a vendor focus. But I did have one thing that I said to myself, go treat yourself to. For whatever reason, I and many others have been casting on socks lately. So welcome to the club if you're also doing that. I think everybody's had different reasons. Some people it's like a kind of a mindless knit. Other people, it's like, I don't know what to cast on. I'm in that like analysis paralysis. For me, one of the reasons I wanted to cast on some socks is to have something to walk around with at Rhinebeck if I just want to take it out and do a little bit and not have to think about where I am in a pattern. So I've never gotten myself woolens and nosh. You know, everybody loves it. It's beautiful. And it's kind of fun to pick out in person, even though you don't have to. But it's not often all online. So I have a DK one. And for her DK, she uses a superwash merino, 100%. But it's high twist. So this one's called porch knitting, and porch knitting, I love to do porch knitting. If you watch this podcast, you know. So this is my porch knitting. It's really, really, really pretty in person. You're not going to see the colors quite as well. Oops. Woolens and nosh. If you don't know woolens and nosh, now you know. And here are your specs. And this is the DK weight. And I don't even know if she had the fingering weight left. I don't think she did, but I was thrilled because DK weight socks go faster and I like them. And then I did happen to see Santa Claus shopping around early before the festival was open to the public. And I pointed out to him the one that I might want to find in my stocking. So we'll just have to see if that turns up and talk about it at a later date if it does. But I also have to show you the bag I'm using here. Extra yarn. I've mentioned it before. First of all, thank you to my college roommate of 3 years, Cypria, and her daughter May, who sent me this little bag just last year. And I was so thrilled to get it because I wanted it when it was out before from Barnes & Noble, and I missed getting it. And if you don't know the book Extra Yarn, and you like children's books, definitely check it out. It's a really sweet one with some good lessons in there and just very simple and very sort of some morals behind it and ideas behind it. And it's a great book to have conversations with kids about and let their imagination and their just the way that they think about the world kind of come into play with conversation. So that's Extra Yarn. That's all the extra yarn I got, unless Santa gets me that other skein. Let's keep our fingers crossed. And then my other purchases were, my merch. So I'm not a big merch person, but between the color pink of this shirt and the design, I just had to get it. And I'm loving it. And they had not too many of these, but these are the perfect size project bag for a sweater, which is really, most of my project bags don't fit a sweater by the time you have a lot of it in there. And if they do, and I love a project bag with a zipper, but if they have a zipper, then by the time you're stuffing it in, I'm worried it's gonna get caught. So this is like a bucket bag, and it's just a perfect size for a sweater project. So that came home with me unexpectedly. And from my friend Paula Ahrens at the Dancing Pony Sheep Farm, of course, I just went to say hello. I love her yarn, and I have some of it in my stash I plan to use, and I thought it was a safe zone, but it wasn't, Paula, because, you can't see with the wrinkles, but can you see the colors of this? It's just the prettiest, smaller project bag. Look, isn't that so pretty? And I am trying to get both more inspired and have some ideas for things that I could start with to learn more about sewing. And so I love this little bag. It's got the drawstring here. It's beautifully made. It's made by Paula's friend. It says Lynn Fallon, handmade. And it was just beautiful. So I came home with that. And I had already had on my list, sort of pre-shopping, that I was going to look at Paula's wool pillows because we were talking in our house about getting some new pillows, and I thought I might want to try one. So I will insert a picture here, but I did from Paula. I did get one of her pillows. And it's very cool when you open it up. It's just all the wool, like a giant bat rolled into the shape of a pillow in a liner with a zipper and then with a pillowcase over the top. And she has 4 pillowcases to choose from. And I thought about it. And of course, you won't be surprised if you watch to know I got the pillowcase with Ellie Mae. So I'm counting on Ellie Mae to help me unwind at night, give me some good dreams, and I don't know, and help rest from this crazy world. And I also, on that note, look at me. I'm sorry, everything's wrinkled. I'm just taking it out of having packed it up. But another Vermont sheep and wool shirt from a previous year that just had a really nice weight and a really nice color. And when you're at a wool festival and it's like 80 some degrees, sometimes you gravitate toward the t-shirts. So I hope that wasn't too boring. You didn't get to see many yarn purchases, but maybe that means you'll get to see more from Rhinebeck, or maybe not. Maybe I will just take filming footage and show you the yarns that I love, even if I don't end up bringing them home. So let's see, I have just a couple other things to show you, and one other thank you. Let me do the thank you and also kind of referral to another podcast in case you don't already watch it, but I would not be surprised if many of you who watch my podcast already watched this one. It's called The Botanical Knitter, and I have always enjoyed listening to Emily and her fiber explorations and adventures, and also her personal stories that she shares. I think there's a bit that's similar about the way the two of us talk in our podcasts, where it's personal, it's about community, and it's about fiber all at once. And so having heard her stories, I shared my Lifelines shawl pattern with her. It also just feels like a nice way. Sometimes when I do a pattern release, I think about the people it reminds me of, and just pick one or two people and I'll send them the pattern with a little note about how much I appreciate what they're doing in our fiber community as well, and why a certain pattern made me think of them. And so I shared Lifeline's shawl with Emily, and then was shocked and so touched that she put it on her podcast. So I think it's probably the most recent one she's done, because she was going to be doing some travel for some time off and some vacation. So if you haven't watched The Botanical Knitter, not just because she shared my shawl, but because I think she has a really beautiful podcast and way of talking to people and being inclusive and building community around fiber arts, go check her out as well. And if you want to meet her in person and you're going to Rhinebeck, she's going to be at the Fiber MacGyver booth. So I plan to go say hi to her in person there and just hopefully share more of the positivity that we experienced at Vermont Sheep and Wool this weekend, which really, it could not have been better and more needed for so many of us. We all know the things that are going on in the world, and seeing people being able to show up in a place, feel safe, be their authentic selves, and not be doing it to protest or be in your face, but just show up, be themselves, feel safe in the world, and love fiber. It sounds so darn basic, but I didn't know what to expect this year. I didn't know if people would be comfortable or not. And frankly, that's not without acknowledging the people who didn't come, because maybe in some way they don't feel safe, or they don't feel mentally healthy enough, or their anxiety is overwhelming. Or they're afraid that if they go to a festival, they might not come home from a festival for whatever reason, because maybe some people are disappearing, and that gives them some concern as well. I want to acknowledge that and say that I hope if people who are in any of those categories are watching this, I hope that you get to experience things virtually a little bit and know that you're not alone, and that there are communities that care about each other, and that there are parts of the world, if you're sitting home with anxiety or with any number of things that are keeping you from getting out, don't feel like it is all bad out there either. Know that there are places that people are coming together, and if you're able to get to one of them, I think it will really help kind of restore some of that and give you some good energy and a positive feeling about not to think that the other things aren't happening, but to know that that's not the only thing that's happening in the world. So I hope to see some of you maybe in a couple of weeks in New York. And please, come up and say hi as well. And yeah, then hopefully we can share some more great moments together. And I don't know, give each other hugs, give each other high fives, or just wave. And whatever it is, just a lot of positivity. So I'll show you one more thing that's on my needles. I don't know if it's gonna become a design or not, but last week before I went, I was having that, I don't have enough things cast on. I don't even have things I can pick up and do like at night for 5 minutes before bed. And I couldn't get out of my head that I really wanted to work with a yarn that I had picked up at New Hampshire Sheep and Wool. So if you've watched those episodes, you've already seen the yarn, but it's the Knit or Dye. Does it say Moon Shadow variegated? So this is a fine Shetland and a fin wool. It's 270 yards. 270 yards. I weighed it. It was 132 grams. And it's Knit or Dye is also peakedmountainhomestead.com. And it's spun at Green Mountain Spinnery. You'll see the part that's already in what I'm going to show you knit, and here's the rest. You can't tell too much here. And actually it's not hugely different in person. This section is very gray and pink, but the section that I've already knit up is like an opalescent green, and it's gonna be hard to see here. But in person, you can see it, and it's just this beautiful sort of moonstone opalescence. It's a fade, and it's I think it's the natural wool that's gray in there that really kind of takes it down a notch. So it's very, very subtle. And so what I did is I got out a hand spun, because I want to work more with my hand spun, and I just started playing. And my hand spun was the fiber for it was purchased at Port Fiber in Maine, but it's from Underhill Fibers Spinning Carding Mill in Gorham, Maine. And this was from the sheep named Sweetie. It was a Cormo Fin BFL cross, and I bought 2 ounces for $10 to spin. And then I spun it into this beautiful natural brown wool. I am having a moment with the natural dark brown wools. I love them. And so what I did is I paired the two together, and I looked around quite a bit at what stitches I thought would look cool, and then I picked this one out. So it's a slip stitch pattern, and I hadn't decided when I started it, was it gonna be bottom up, was it gonna be top down? I just wanted to cast it on and play. And so right now I'm torn between a top down cowl that gets larger in a minute, in a real quick minute. I don't have a ton of that brown, so it's not like I'm gonna be able to make a huge one, but who knows, I could use more of this. Or, I could just make it a simple cowl. So we'll see, but it's beautiful. And then I could do a hat to match, which I think would be neat. So I'm loving working with it, and you don't have to hand spin if I end up doing something with a pattern. There is a natural brown that pairs perfectly with this that you can get right from the same vendor. Or of course, I always encourage you to mix and match things too. You don't have to do exactly what patterns do, or exactly what the designer does, or exactly what someone else does. But for those of you who like the guidance and want the suggestions, it's there. So that's what's on my needles, in addition to some sock stuff sitting around and, a little bit here and there. I probably will get another one of these on the needles. I have some ideas for some other garments, but my gingerbread whimsy's in testing now, and just figuring out how to pace myself for the year ahead and use some hand spun too. That's actually one vendor I will mention. So many beautiful, beautiful vendors at Vermont Sheep and Wool. There was one that was new to me, and I don't have, her name's Clarion, and she's from Brooklyn, New York. And she had a booth with hand spun, and it was so consistently hand spun. It was wild. I took a bunch of pictures, but was just going by so fast. So I do want to learn more about her, and I plan to do that and look at her website and her information. But I think it was her first time at Vermont Sheep and Wool, so it was fun to see somebody new, in addition to all of the old friends that we have, all of the people I didn't get around to, but I did take some good footage of some of the animals. So maybe I'll leave you with that at the end. Anyhow, as always, it looks like I checked off most of my list. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of this community. Leave a comment below. What should we do today? Should we have a comment prompt, or just maybe tell me what you're knitting. How about that? And if you're stuck, then maybe we can help each other out with some suggestions. All right, everybody, knit kindly, live kindly. I'll see if I can maybe pop in one more time before Rhinebeck, but if not, I'm sure I'll have a lot of footage and things to share from Rhinebeck weekend. Take care.
Yeah.